Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone podcast. My name is Kathy. We are continuing with our discussion of the Affidavit of Probable Cause. 3 years later, this is the document that was signed by Detective Brett Payne, where on page 18, the last page, Detective Payne, under oath and based on everything that came before, asked for and successfully obtained a warrant for the arrest of Mr. Kohberger relative to the catastrophic events that happened on November 13th, 2022 at 1122 King Road. We are continuing with our discussion at page number 15 of the PCA. There is what Detective Payne has referenced as depictions. It is one of 4 that appear within this PCA, and it is described as a possible route that Mr. Kohberger took on November 13th, 2022 in his travels from his apartment in Pullman, Washington to the vicinity of 1122 King Road and then back. Underneath this depiction, the following is stated by Detective Payne. Investigators found that the 8458 phone did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th, 2022, but investigators do not believe that the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date. The 8458 phone has not connected to any towers that provide service to Moscow since that date. And then in the next paragraph, it states, based on my training experience and the facts of the investigation thus far, I believe that Kohberger, the user of the 8458 phone, was likely the driver of the white Elantra that is observed departing Pullman, Washington, and that this vehicle is likely suspect vehicle 1. Additionally, the route of travel of the 8458 phone during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, and the lack of the 8458 phone reporting to AT&T between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple unalivings that occurred at the King Road residence. And this takes us to the bottom, ladies and gentlemen, of page 15 of the Affidavit of Probable Cause. If I could include some commentary, some input, some thoughts, some opinion, speculation completely provided under the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution based on what appears here. First and foremost, Detective Payne previously spent a significant amount of time connecting or attempting to connect the 8458 phone to cell towers that provided service to Moscow previously on November 13th, 2022, as if this information could pinpoint exactly the travels of the 8458 phone to a single place on Earth, when it appears, based on my research, what we've learned during the case as it progressed and as various experts testified, that it does not. It provides a scope within a few miles. It doesn't pinpoint to a specific place on Earth. Secondly, there is no further explanation why, after Detective Payne spent all of this time attempting to pinpoint the travels of the 8458 phone by whether or not it connected to towers, then says that investigators found that this same phone did connect to a cell phone tower that provides service to Moscow the day after the crimes on November 14th, 2022, ladies and gentlemen. But then he says, but investigators do not believe that the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date. And there's nothing further to clarify what this means, why he would say on the one hand that when the 8458 phone on the 13th of November appeared to connect to towers providing service in Moscow, why, if on the 14th, it did connect to a cell phone tower, as it says here, providing service in Moscow, but then investigators do not believe the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date, the 14th of November. This appears to be inconsistent with what was stated beforehand and without any further explanation regarding this difference. And then the next paragraph, where he begins with, based on my training experience, that he believes that Kohberger was the user of the 8458 phone and was likely, not definitely, but likely the driver of the white Elantra that is observed departing Pullman, Washington, and that this vehicle is likely, not definitely, but likely suspect vehicle 1. First off, we have to be mindful of what Detective Payne said on page 1 of the affidavit, that he does not have a lot of experience in the field as, in my opinion, as a peace officer. He said that he had only been qualified to work as a peace officer for 4 years on November 13th, 2022. What he did not state, which is very typically stated in affidavits of probable cause I've read, is that the law enforcement officer will say without hesitation how many years of experience they have. And based on my other research, Detective Payne did not have 4 years of experience as a peace officer. He was qualified. He passed some training 4 years prior to the date, but it appears that he had perhaps 2.5 years of total experience. So that's what he's basing everything on. And then was likely the driver, was likely suspect vehicle 1, tells us that a guess needs to be made here based on this limited, apparently, experience, because there was no hard evidence that Mr. Kohberger was the driver of the Elantra that was seen departing Pullman, going to Moscow, as pieced together by certain various videos, which some have asserted seems to depict another car, not one continuous car driving. And even at one point during the PCA, Detective Payne had to make a guess, because there was no video, at a certain point in Moscow when this car was leaving, allegedly, the 1122 King Road residence. So he says here twice that Mr. Kohberger was likely the driver of the white Elantra observed departing Pullman, and was likely suspect vehicle 1, this car was, because there appeared to be a lack of facts proving this. And again, additionally, the route of travel that the 8458 phone during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, and the lack of the 8458 phone reporting to AT&T between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple unalivings. There are no facts to back this up. This is pure speculation, in my opinion, because if he had facts to back this up, that he was in fact attempting to conceal his location during the time of the unalivings, he would have put it right here in the PCA. Please read the Affidavit of Probable Cause. It is available on the website that the Idaho Supreme Court has provided. Idaho cases of judicial interest go down to the Kohberger case, go back to 2022, when the case was first initiated, as it was in Latah County. We will continue on next time with an analysis of page 16. Until then, this is Kathy. Thank you for joining us here today.